Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Hey, guys, we're enjoying our coffee and we're shake, rattling, and rolling.
And it's sloshing. It's great.
Yeah, that was fun.
Loads of fun. Always is.
So I see we have Mark and we have Sally and we have Jamie and we got Nuke. I'm really sensitive to quakes. I could really feel them. I could feel the earth. Well, it's just from all the QiGong and rooting. So that was very interesting. We had felt the other big one, the one that was way up in Tonopah. Now that was a side to side, like somebody pushing on the camper. You know, two gigantic Sasquatch pushing on the camper back and forth. This felt very different. This actually shook things in a much different way. This felt more like a jerky, like a slip fault. It felt more of an up and down motion, I would say. And I've sensed a few other, quakes after. So, yeah, wow, that was something.
Yeah, it was different. It was very jerky, like somebody pulling a rug out from underneath you. Very strange.
Yeah, it was. It felt a little bit more violent, but it didn't last as long as the large one up in Tonopah.
See people from California. Hi, Miss Susan Donahue. She's doing okay. I'm glad you guys are okay.
Yeah, that was really curious, Susan. Did you feel it up that way in San Francisco? Because while it happened, you know what I was doing, guys? What I was doing was I was looking over here telling Cindy, this is an unusual swarm we have going on north of Ridgecrest. Because we have Ridgecrest here, and it seemed really unusual. And I was just telling her that, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we're feeling it.
We were. That was pretty cool. Interesting. Anyway.
So as you see right here, these came in after. So we have, and I could feel a little bit of shaking right now.
That was me. It was. No, really. I don't know. We're a little sensitive.
Okay, so USGS downgrading service down to a 5.8 at the moment, but that initially came in as a 6.1, and it felt like it was in the sixes. See, it's not your foot right now, and I still feel the movement going on. And I was looking earlier too, and saying to Cindy that really, when we look at like the Mexican quake that happened, the energy hasn't transferred. There was 35 quakes in 24 hours before that over on the Caribbean plate, and they're only showing 32 right now. So it's not like any energy has transferred over to the Caribbean side here, of which I still keep getting the feeling it's going to be more like over here, like towards Caracas, Maracaibo maybe, towards Venezuela, but we'll see. And we haven't really had much go anywhere down here. So we only have a 5.1 over in Ecuador from that 7.4 that came out. And right now, if we look at what's going on over in Mexico, just 5 aftershocks. Not enough of a release yet, I would say. And I'm not a Dutch sense expert. I'm just somebody that's followed him for years and studied this stuff and then just paid a lot of attention like you guys. But you also go by your instincts and by your guts. And so something tells me, well, for one, I feel, look at how quiet it is. It's too quiet. It feels to me like the energy has been building all the way from Cascadia down to San Andreas. And it's not being released there. It's like it's completely locked up there. And that's putting pressure more on what we would call the Walker Lane, which is the scenario that, may be more and more likely all the time. And in which case, there might be a lot of, waterfront housing all along Arizona border here, straight up. Well, really go right through California, and Nevada will end up having quite a bit of waterfront property. Yeah, I don't think that was a 5.8. We felt it strongly, and we're not, right there.
That was pretty strong. For them to downgrade it where we felt it here, I don't think they should have downgraded it. I think sometimes they do that on purpose, though. I've seen it.
Yeah, so that is pretty wild, and the aftershocks are coming in still. Feels, well, it's interesting times. Very interesting times going on, guys.
Yeah, our shields are down a little bit. I understand we have some kind of a sun sneeze coming in, so I'm wondering if that doesn't hit the places that are weak and kind of, shakes them up a little bit.
So, we got a lot of comments going on. Karen Jeffers, last night I had a weird clicking clunking in my inner ear, woke me up very odd. I was wondering if it was due to an upcoming earthquake near Sacramento. Very, very well. Could be. Things feel very, very unstable. Granny Anonymous, can this be a foreshock? Worried about Cascadia. And, well, it most definitely could be. Most definitely could be. And I keep going back. I keep feeling that Walker Lane scenario, which is very ominous as we see. Let's see if I can find it here. So you see, this is the whole Walker Lane zone. And really, when we look back, we know that Baja California at one time, Baja California was attached to the mainland. And you see how this rift goes, as I feel more shaking right now, just a light shaking. This goes straight through here. And this is separating away, moving away from the mainland. And so where is it going to eventually go? Where's the energy going to go? One theory has the San Andreas going. And we do know that since Ridgecrest, the Garlock Fault is putting more pressure on the San Andreas. And the Garlock is now awake, most definitely. But also it could be kind of causing that logjam of energy that is manifesting right now and moving into other areas. But will LA eventually split and go past San Fran, as some believe? As this would move all this up, and California basically would be kind of like a big island there. Or is it going to be going straight up through here, in which case it'll go all the way up to Reno? And again, Reno would also have, oceanfront, or I don't know if we would call it a sea at that point. It wouldn't really be a gulf anymore. I don't know what the technical term they would use or how they would name it when that happens. But, Walker Lane, it's feeling like this is a more likely scenario all the time to happen. As you see, the area here goes right through, where we're looking at. And very, very ominous. But, we are in just these incredible times. And Nuclear Quantum Lasers, who's in the house, he had us looking at a video of Mexico, and I'll probably show that later on the other channel, where there's these strange sounds, and they almost sound like a sonic wave weapon. And then there's another point where it's showing in the Mexican earthquake. Now, it could be transformers, but it sounded like bombs, honestly, going off. So you got to wonder, are these things triggered? We know there's technology out there that can create earthquake weapons. Goes all the way back to Tesla's time, and Tesla having one that, triggered a quake in New York City and freaked people out way, way back. So I know the technology is there, I'm sure.
Yeah, they've had these technologies for quite a while, the Tesla technologies. And I'm sure that they've gotten those notes and added to it. I feel quite certain of that.
Yeah, so I see a lot of love in the house. Greetings, everybody. We got so many beautiful people here. Susan's talking about I've seen an incredible tsunami. I had to come to terms with it as I watched the Pacific. You know, that whole scenario, and, you know, I'm checking Cindy's leg, make sure she's not kicking the chair.
No, I actually did. You're so sensitive.
Oh no! See, I could sense this. I sense the movements, and there's been more. There's just another aftershock. You know, Scott says some things are triggered by the negative powers, and other things are corrected by the positive powers. And Mark says directed possibly by China. Indigo says not China. Well, you know, the powers that be, perhaps, as well. So that movie, how it ends, you don't know. And again, they are always giving us clues through these movies constantly. You don't know what it is. You don't know if it was an act of war, or you don't know if it was a natural earthquake, just like, you know, what we would expect the real big one to be up in Cascadia, followed by the San Andreas. And you just don't know. And the power's out, so we have like the EMP thing going, and it's just an interesting scenario, and they keep you guessing the whole time. And I think that's kind of going to be like how it plays out. It really feels like that. We won't know if it was, you know, natural, or if it was, you know, a Russian Chinese thing, or, you know, the deep state cabal trying to make it look like a Russian Chinese thing. We won't really know, and that's part of our prepping, you know, because we have to really. I feel like in 6 months' time, by the time we get to December, the level of chaos is going to be much higher than it is now. Believe it or not, that's what we're really getting, that feeling, and we feel like our guides are preparing us for that mentally, as well as with the physical upgrades, that the level of chaos is going to go to a whole new level.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to kind of sort of keep increasing, you know, slow but steady, slow but sure, like the frog in boiling water.
Yeah, definitely. So Indigo says they're being triggered by energy outputs from the populace. The skies are supercharged. Yeah, and there was sightings of inverse lightning last night. And so one of our dear brothers, Mark over at Wages World, was doing a video. And let me see if I could find it here.
So we just never know what's going to happen anymore. But it does, you know, we do have that CME coming. So that's really, really interesting right there. That's curious stuff.
So, yeah, this is our dear friend, Mark over at Wages World. Crazy upward lightning. CME is going to hit Earth, right? So we know, and right now, as he's showing here, so if anybody hasn't subscribed yet to Wages World, please do. The Schumann too was another thing. Our brother Joffrey he always is keeping an eye on that, and it was going kind of crazy. And let's see look at that white out there. Ooh, that was a big one, and now it's, I guess, settling back in a little bit. But yeah, that was a big one right there. So at the moment we're showing a 44 as far as the amplitude. Consciousness of the planet's changing. Everything is changing. And as we said, crazy upward lightning. And I know Mark wouldn't care if we played his video, but just to show you. And then also that CME incoming. And looking at the way this is trailing here. 4.6, 3.1, 3.6, and then down into the smaller ones. So the biggest one is a 4.6 so far after this. And again, they initially put this as a 6.1, and that definitely felt, I don't think we would feel this where we are like that. It's pretty intense. And I still think we're going to see something in the next 4 or 5 days of significance, more in South America or South America or the Caribbean. We should. Now, if it doesn't go anywhere, then, maybe it'll even put more pressure back up towards California and Nevada and up the line as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit hard to say where it's going, but since we have had Dutch to teach us a little bit, then we can sort of kind of guesstimate. It's we have more information than we had before, and I feel he's an honest contributor. He has no agenda.
No, he's just a beautiful guy, beautiful soul. And there's so many people out here. Morticia was in Lone Pine for 5 minutes, and I asked Cindy if she's been through there. She thinks she has.
Yeah, I think so. Probably I've been all over that part of the country, so.
Yeah, so very, very interesting times. Yeah, I think we got a lot more earth-shaking events that are going to be happening. And as we were talking about, this is very, very interesting. The Walker Lane is a geologic trowel, roughly aligned with the California-Nevada border, southward to where Death Valley intersects the Garlock Fault. A major left lateral or sinistral strike-slip fault. The northwest end of the Walker Lane is between Pyramid Lake in Nevada and California's Lassen Peak, where the Honey Lake Fault Zone, the Warm Springs Valley Fault, and the Pyramid Lake Fault Zone meet the transverse tectonic zone, forming the southern boundary of the Modoc Plateau and Columbia Plateau provinces. Walker Lane takes up 15 to 25% of the boundary motion between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. The other 75% is being taken up by the San Andreas Fault System to the west. The Walker Lane may represent an incipient major transform fault zone which could replace the San Andreas as the plate boundary in the future. So that's really huge when you think about it. And the Walker Lane deformation belt accommodates nearly 12 millimeters a year of dextral shear between the Sierra Nevada, Great Valley Block, and North America. The belt is characterized by the northwest striking transcurrent faults and the coevolutionary dip-slip faults formed as a result of spatially segregated displacement field. So the San Andreas, it feels, is mostly locked up. Cascadia, same thing. We really have not seen a lot of activity there, while we've had big activity elsewhere. So is that what's happening? And, does that portend that a lot of the prophecies where we hear about California and all perhaps can come to pass as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could get caught up on, and I don't know. I have a feeling though the CME is what's making things feel kind of shaky.
So the 1872 Owens Valley earthquake, which is also known as the Lone Pine earthquake, it struck on March 26 at 2:30 local time in Owens Valley along the east side of the Sierra Nevada. The epicenter near the town of Lone Pine, magnitude estimated at between 7.4 and 7.9, with a maximum Mercalli intensity of X, which is extreme. One of the largest earthquakes to hit California in recorded history, similar in size to the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. 27 people were killed and 56 were injured because there's not many people that were living in this area, and there still is not a lot of people living in this area, really. But, this was a pretty damn big earthquake, 7.4 to 7.9. So just like as Granny Anonymous was saying, is this a precursor? Most definitely, it just, that was the first thing I was really getting into, guys, getting ready to do a earth change video. And, just zooming in over here and saying to Cindy, look at this. This is slightly unusual from what we've been seeing. And then all of a sudden, whoa, the house is shaking.
House is shaking. Yeah, I know.
So there we go. So right now we have 21 in this area. And again, we go back to the whole Ridgecrest. Ridgecrest changed things with that big quake. As you look right here, we're looking at the Garlock right through here. And it comes and it puts pressure right on the San Andreas. And so is all this backing up somehow? Because when you look at what we still have that swarm up in west of Tonopah. Here's Tonopah. Cute little town, don't blink. You see 101 quakes right here in this zone. So it's still going there. And by the way, there's Hawthorne, which is a massive military base. As we see Walker Lake right there. And we see Mono Lake over here. And we see Mammoth Lakes with Long Valley Caldera, super volcano. And that's what I was just thinking before, as you see that little edge to the crater of the super volcano right here. Being the way things have moved, I wonder if this is where the feeding the feeding zone is for the supervolcano now. Because like when you look at Yellowstone, for instance, which is way over here, it was over here. And it's just been the movement of the plate that has moved the surface over the plume. So you gotta wonder if that's the same situation over here. And that's pure speculation. I haven't heard anybody else say that. So, but then again, we know that a lot of the times I think we could come closer to the truth than the experts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we do too, because it just seems like they already know these things. They already know what's up. They have the technology. They say that they don't, but I just find that hard to believe.
And so we saw, a fairly large quake that came up here in the Salt Lake City area. And there's been sporadic quakes, smaller, activity going on. And then we had the one up in Idaho, still got swarming going on as well there. And we've seen quite a bit of quake activity in Oklahoma, which of course has been fracked to death. So very interesting times, to say the least, with what we have going, guys.
Very interesting times. And, who's to say what's coming up next? It's hard to say, because with the big earthquake, it would happen in like 1870 something. And there's only been a few there, but in this day and age, do you just sit here and wonder, I wonder if that's what's going to, kind of trigger release things or what? It's really hard to say. But I think with this, now that we know the CMEs and stuff are coming in, we know to stay a little more on guard.
Yeah, definitely. And so, Jimmy says, I'm surprised people still live on the West Coast, knowing that there would be a big one eventually. Yeah, every area has its challenges. And, this is the challenge for the West Coast. And more than one, because we also have a mega drought building all throughout the Southwest. Yeah, Mary's asking if the Alaska quakes are related. There's always a lot of activity up in Alaska, but it's all part of the way the energy transfers. As we know, when we look at the way it goes, typically anything that happens over in Japan, it could travel down, it could travel up and over. And if we look at right now, it's pretty dead quiet. Look at Japan. It's just quiet as can be. So, yeah, it feels like there's a big buildup going on right now. And everything is related. Everything is related, because typically, as we were saying, energy could come here and then just keep following on down through. And as like Dutch has shown us, energy will either transfer down this way, heading down towards Central and South America, travel across, and eventually, it goes along the edge of the craton. But this energy, it really hasn't moved much yet. So I gotta wonder, if this is related to that, and it's all related to perhaps that slow slip, but no real release, all through Cascadia on down into the San Andreas, which to me is making it feel more likely every day that we'll end up eventually getting that big Cascadian one, followed very, very shortly thereafter by San Andreas big one. And wouldn't that be the perfect scenario for who knows what with what we've been seeing? I mean, we have civil unrest. We have a possible second wave upon us, looking more likely like there's a quote-unquote second wave. Whatever is truly initiating that, as, the movement towards putting in more and more of these towers hasn't slowed, even with all the chaos going on. You see, they're still passing through, bills, and they're still out there, rapidly constructing these networks. Meanwhile, the whole country and the whole globe is in chaos, but yet it still seems to be like that's one of the highest priorities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to say thank you to Miss Morticia for your support. And she said, did you hear that it was 100 degrees in Siberia and the Arctic Circle yesterday? Yes, we did. That's crazy.
Yeah, we did talk about it, setting the record. And, but that's what we have. We have these extremes. And really the outlook for summer for almost the entirety of the country is that it's going to be above average to much above average temperatures. So, brace yourself for that. We had some people asking, how about some updates on what you're doing with the property? Honestly, it's been too hot to do anything. It's been, between 105 and 110-ish consistently. So, when it's already 95 degrees and it's not even noon, it's hard to get things done. So mostly we've just been taking care of the plants and, doing other things. We've been actually helping a lot of people with energy work and things along those lines. There's been such an outpouring of people that need help with everything that's going on, with the ascension symptoms, with just dealing with everything in society. And we're finding more and more people are just completely locked up energetically, as well as many cases under attack from these like darker energies that are getting to be very, very bold as we move up in vibration, up into like what's known as the lower astral realm, where so many of these dark nasties are.
Yeah, that's where they are, and that's why it's important to kind of get unlocked and move your vibration up so that they can't reach you. And it's definitely not an easy process. It does take a lot of work. It takes a lot of work on the self. And it looks like as above, so below. I think we're all kind of having our own inner turmoils, and then we look at the planet, and she's having her turmoils too. So, it's all over the place. It's across the board. This turbulent nature of energy.
So I've quoted this article many times, actually, as this was a really good article talking about Walker Lane. And just because this map, for instance, shows you exactly what we're talking about. So when you look at this, the potential is that this will be the new San Andreas in the future. This will be the new border between the two plates. Well, that sounds pretty scary, because you got to ask yourself, well, okay, so what happened to California if that's the case? And as we know, there's so many of the Earth Changes maps that show California being a series of islands, basically. But this is how it goes. You see, it goes right through the Gulf of California, just to the west of Yuma, through the Salton Sea, and up through here, right up through Lone Pine area, right through where we just had this quake, right through Ridgecrest, right through the Garlock, nips off the corner of this part of Nevada, and up through Tahoe and Reno. And so, this might be the new boundary at some point in time. That's pretty ominous, especially with what we're seeing right now going on. The swarming over at Tonopah. And then we've had, the quake activity in Idaho and over in Salt Lake. It feels like this scenario and the shifting. So this takes 25% of the energy, somewhere in that range, and the San Andreas takes 75. But if the San Andreas is not dispensing the energy, and up above it, Cascadia is not, it's all building up perhaps and adding to the weight that is along this zone right here. So, our friends and family, over in Nevada, you might end up, again, having beachfront property at some point in the future. And reminds me again of that Tool song. See it over in Arizona Bay. Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, it is. And, it's just curious to sit here and watch. And I don't know. I after this happened, I just got instantly dizzy. So I don't know. I'm kind of sensitive to that earth change stuff too. Yeah, I think when the earth is in distress, or actually whenever I panic, I'm sort of down. I'm down. I got to work on that.
Everything with me gets really heightened. So it's kind of like an adrenaline junkie. But then, I've done things like go out in a northeaster down to the beach in a Jeep and ride through like 2 feet of muck coming in from the water, just, coming on in. It's one of those things where some people are like drawn to it. Okay, so let's see what they're saying here. So USGS initially reported 6.0. I saw 6.1. 6.1 initially came out, and then it's changed. It shook Central California east of Fresno near Sequoia National Park. The epicenter was Lone Pine, but it could be felt as far south as Los Angeles, and it struck 1.2 miles deep. No immediate reports of damage or injury. So again, this is right where that great quake of 1872 happened, right here at Lone Pine. So interesting. And is it a precursor? It very well might be. So you could see what we're talking about here. See the whole valley right through here. This is all part of what could end up basically being the new San Andreas, the new load-bearing edge of the plate zone, ending, somewhere up, well, not really ending, but going right through the area up through Reno and Tahoe. And we were just talking about that, saying, boy, it would be great to go take a trip up to like Lake Tahoe, just feeling like, again, needing to get away. We did a little trip before and got a taste of some mountain living and cooler temperatures, and boy, it was wonderful.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe we'll head back up there again. I don't know.
So very interesting, guys. Very interesting. Schumann going crazy. We have crazy upward lightning, CME coming in. So, I don't think that all the shaking is necessarily over. I really do feel like we'll see something else considerable in the upcoming couple days as well. Maybe as far as 4 or 5 days out would be my guess, but very interesting. We're going to have to really, really watch this and keep an eye on it.
Yeah, definitely. Stay on guard.
So, guys, we're going to end this one right now, and because we do have some people we have to help, and then we'll come back with updates, and we'll get other stuff out today. It has a feel like it might be a very eventful day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a happy way. Yeah.
Yes. So please do always prep. Prepare. Things are just going up to a much higher level here. So we love you guys as always. Thank you so much for all your support over on Ko-Fi and Patreon. And we will get back at you again later on. God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.